In January 1979, a man named Shapur was standing in line at a Tehran bank. He was an engineer, good salary, Western education, he had a mortgage, a car, and a vacation planned for the summer in Paris. He was exactly the kind of person the modern Iranian economy was built for. 6 months later, his savings had lost half their value, his company had shut down, and the country he had built his life inside no longer existed. Washington watched the revolution and made a decision: starve it out. Full sanctions, no trade, no banking, no access to the global financial system. The calculation was cold and simple. A country of 35 million people with no allies and no economic infrastructure could not survive isolation for more than a few years. That was 1979. Iran has now lived under American sanctions for longer than most of its current population has been alive. Here's the number that stops every economist who looks at it seriously. The United States has imposed over 3,900 separate sanctions on Iran, more than any other country in human history, more than Russia, more than North Korea, more than Cuba, by a significant distance, and Iran is still producing oil, still feeding its population, still operating banks, still building missiles, and still sitting at tables where the future of the entire Middle East gets decided. So the question is not whether sanctions work, the question is what actually happens to a country when you try to destroy it for half a century and fail. Because the answer is not what anyone expected. If that question pulls at you the way it pulls at me, subscribe. This is where the real story gets told. Meet Reza. In 2012, he ran a mid-sized pharmaceutical import business in Tehran, good contacts in Europe, reliable suppliers in Germany, a warehouse full of medicine that Iranian hospitals desperately needed. Then one morning, his European bank account stopped working. Overnight, no warning, no appeal process, just a letter explaining that due to sanctions compliance, his accounts were being closed. He had 72 hours to move his money somewhere. The problem was, there was nowhere to move it. That was the year America added Iran to the list of countries completely cut off from the SWIFT international banking system. For most economists, it was supposed to be the killing blow. No SWIFT means no international transactions. No international transactions means no trade. No trade means collapse. Reza did not collapse. Within 4 months, he had rebuilt his entire operation through a network of intermediary companies in the UAE, Turkey, and Iraq. Payments moved through currencies nobody was tracking. Goods arrived through routes nobody was watching. The medicine kept flowing, and Reza was not special. He was just one node in an entire parallel financial system that 85 million Iranians had been quietly constructing for decades out of pure necessity. By 2023, Iran had become the third largest cryptocurrency user in the entire world. Not because Iranians are tech enthusiasts, because when the official financial system is a weapon pointed at your head, you build a different financial system. The sanctions did not stop the economy. They transformed it into something far harder to target and far harder to destroy. In 2019, a 9-year-old girl named Dina was diagnosed with leukemia in a hospital in Isfahan. Her doctor knew exactly what drug she needed. It was a standard treatment, available in every major hospital in Europe and America, cheap to produce, simple to ship. It took her family 7 months to find it. By the time they did, Dinah had lost significant ground in her treatment. Not because the medicine did not exist, because the company that manufactured it refused to ship to Iran. Not due to any specific sanctions on medicine, simply because no bank would process the payment and no logistics company wanted the legal risk. This is the part of the sanction story that never makes the news. The official line is always that humanitarian goods are exempt. Food and medicine are always allowed. And technically that is true. But when every bank is terrified of accidental violations, when every shipping company avoids the paperwork, when every intermediary adds months of delay, the exemption exists only on paper. A 2019 report by Human Rights Watch documented systematic shortages of cancer medication, epilepsy drugs, and rare disease treatments across Iran. Not because of Iranian government policy, because the financial system built to pressure a government was quietly suffocating the people that government ruled over. Here's the uncomfortable truth that both sides refuse to say out loud. Sanctions do not negotiate with governments. Sanctions do not feel pain, only people feel pain, and for 45 years it has been ordinary Iranians, not the men in power, who have been paying the actual price. The government adapted, the people absorbed the damage. For decades, the strategy was simple: keep Iran isolated, keep it poor, keep it weak, and eventually the pressure would force a change in behavior or a change in government. Then, in 2022, something broke that strategy permanently. When America froze Russian reserves and cut Moscow off from SWIFT, Iran was one of the first countries to pick up the phone and call Russia, not to offer sympathy, to offer infrastructure. Iran had spent 40 years building systems to move money, oil, and goods outside of the Western financial architecture. Russia needed exactly that. The country that was supposed to be a warning to the world had quietly become a manual for survival. By 2023, Iran was a full member of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization. It had signed a 25-year strategic cooperation agreement with China worth $400 billion. It was trading oil with India in rupees and with China in yuan. It had integrated its banking system with Russia bypassing SWIFT entirely. Through alternative channels both countries had spent years developing. The isolated country had somehow ended up at the center of every major alternative financial network being built to challenge the dollar system. Here's what makes this extraordinary. Iran did not plan to become a key architect of a new world order. It was forced by necessity into building exactly the tools that half the world now desperately wants access to. 40 years of sanctions did not push Iran toward the West. They pushed Iran toward every country that resented the West, and those countries now represent more than half the world's population and more than half the world's energy supply. Washington built a pressure campaign. Iran built a network. Here's the paradox that no foreign policy expert wants to admit out loud. The longer you sanction a country, the more self-sufficient it becomes. The more self-sufficient it becomes, the less leverage you have over it, and the less leverage you have, the more extreme your next move has to be. America has been in this loop with Iran for 45 years, and today Iran is more embedded in global alternative networks, more energy independent, more domestically capable than it was in 1979. The sanctions did not weaken Iran's position in the world. They defined it. This does not mean Iran won. Millions of ordinary people paid an enormous price in medicine, in opportunity, in simple quality of life. That cost was real, and it was borne almost entirely by people who had no say in any of the decisions that caused it. But the lesson for the rest of the world is impossible to ignore. Sanctions as a weapon only work when the target has something to lose and somewhere else to go. When you take away both options, you are no longer applying pressure. You are performing it. The world is watching. And more importantly, the world is taking notes. If this story changed the way you see sanctions, power, and the countries that refuse to disappear, subscribe right now and leave a comment below telling me which country you think survives the next 45 years of pressure. I read every single one,